come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest, rider. I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time.
Good evening, everyone. That's that big deep breath. Whew. Don't worry, we're here. Sorry for the late start, but we're back. Loading Mag NUFC is back with another full loaded transfer show with a little slight twist there tonight. And of course, we've got the main man, Chris Hall, alongside me. How are you, fella? You're not rushed off your feet today, are you?
Oh, mate. Do you know what? I don't know. I always bring it upon myself. So, like, my wife constantly says to me, you do too much. You need to say no. And I think I just try and squeeze everything in. So, like, I got invited onto this. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. I got invited onto a legal walk today. And I hadn't realised it was quite such a big thing. But it's a 10K walk anyway. And the weather's brilliant. So I thought, why not? So anyway, finished work, went on that. Little bit delayed. And then it got to 6:30 and I thought, right, I better get back to my hotel. So I made a mad dash back to my hotel, nipped into Nando's just in case we run over, got me takeaway there, and then I literally got back at 7:29. So I'm literally just like, so yeah, but I'm here and I'm looking forward to it. Been really looking forward to having António on. So yeah, really looking forward to the show. You all right, Pete?
All good. Busy day, but look, we always, as you said, we always make room to talk about Newcastle United. And welcome to everyone in the chat. So many in the chat already. You're right. We are so rude to not mention it. Brandy and Blaze is in the house. Don't know if the Blaze is in the house. It's there. Oh yeah, Brand. It's an empty Brandy. I need to fill this up, but it's there. We are in the house. Craig Lee's in the house. Good evening. Paul Gallant, as always. Thank you for your support. We've got Brett C in the house. Of course, we've got Lisa Mulm, a resident spanner. We've got Daz, one of the loaded boys in the house too. The Nando's is there, but you can't wait to munch that, fella. We've got Shawry, my boy Mark Shaw. I used to play with him a couple of years ago. No he's an Arsenal fan. But yeah, he's in the house. Great to see you, Shawry. Hope you're well, fella. And many more. Just seeing Jamie sneaking right there. And look, we're here to talk about Newcastle United. And there's only one man tonight that we want to talk about Newcastle United. And it's time to Mango. And we've got António Mango in the house. Pleasure to have him back second time to talk all things Newcastle with players that you may know and players that you may not know. So it'll be an interesting chat. So welcome in, António Mango. How you doing, fella?
Hello, guys. You all right?
Very well.
Good. You're making us jealous with that Nando's, by the way.
I know. If you see some chicken just kind of like disappear during the show, it's because it's just Chrissy. He can't help himself. It's
don't worry.
If you see that, you know what's happening. But António, great to have you on the show, and great to have you with us again to talk all things Newcastle United. We set you the task a good few weeks ago because we know people in the chat know that there are certain positions that Newcastle United need to fill. And we set you the task to look at certain players, whether they're well known or whether they're not, that could come in and do the business for Newcastle United. So we got a list of players, or I say we didn't. You did. You went away and do what you do. You watch lots and lots of games, scout lots and lots of players, and you come back with a bit of a list. But look, just tell us a little bit about what you do, really, because obviously you scout a lot of players, and anyone that follows Antonio on social media, on Twitter in particular, you'll see that he's always putting players up. You're always putting players up, Antonio, of certain, whether it's a young player, whether it's an established player, and players that you've looked at and followed. What is it that you do, and how did you get into kind of finding out about these sort of hidden gems? Like, is there anything specific that you do within your role?
Yeah, well, firstly, I kind of fell into it because I was speaking to an ex-footballer who's now an agent, and he asked us to do a bit of scouting for him in terms of recruiting players for different clubs, Premier League clubs, things like that. So I was just like, you know what? I spend every second of the day just thinking about football, and if a game's not on live, I'll be sitting watching a highlight or 90 minutes of a youth game that happened in 2016 or something. And I just thought, you know what, I do it in my spare time anyways. So now I've started doing that for him, and then it just turned to Twitter, and I just started writing out player threads and scout reports on Twitter, and me following on Twitter just seemed to grow and grow day by day. So I just found a little niche, loved it, and yeah, that's what I do pretty much.
Well, you definitely know your players, and there's some really interesting players from months and months ago that are now coming into fruition, and a lot of clubs are talking about them. So we'll definitely talk about that in just a second. But look, I have to just mention it because lots of people talk about it in the chat. Both myself and Lisa were elected into the Newcastle United Supporters Trust last night. Very, very proud to be elected and I've just got to say a massive thanks to everybody that voted. All the members from the trust that voted for us, massive thank you for all of you. I've had so many messages. I've not had a chance to get back to you all, but I appreciate all of you. So thank you very much, and I'm sure Lisa feels exactly the same. But most importantly, the Loaded Boys, Chris, Daz, Richie, thank you for your support. To help me along to be able to put myself in this position. So look, we will do what we can. We will work alongside the rest of the team that is in place, and we will do what we can to ensure that we are doing everything by our members. And that's all we can do. So look, we're looking forward to working alongside the club. And look, we've not got started yet, but when we get started, we'll certainly get our feet under the table and start to get things sorted. But yeah,
congratulations.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. So we've got that out of the way. Let's get back to Newcastle United and talk football. So where should we start? Because we identified 4 key positions: left back, right centre back, centre midfield, and either the left or right wing position. Okay, so is there anywhere that you would like to start, Antonio, when talking about a particular position?
Well, let's just do it in that order that you've just said.
So start with left back then.
Left backs, yeah, great. Now, okay. You set me the most difficult job in the world. Do you know how you got in touch and said, I want you to pick this amount of left backs, etc., to shorten the amount of players I have on my Excel sheet down to 3 or 4 is literally impossible. So that was the most difficult job anybody's ever asked us to do. It was crazy.
No, we'll look. We always ask for the difficult task, but look, you've gone away and done it. That's for sure. So look, where should we start? Because there are 3 left backs that we've got here that I think are worthy of talking about. Let's start with this, and I have to say there are some that I wasn't even aware of. Some of these players, so there are some players out there that will be brand new tonight, and we can go away and do our research on some of these players. But let's start with Fabrizio Parisi. Talk to us a little bit about him. First of all, who does he play for? How old is he? And what could he offer Newcastle United?
Yeah, so Fabrizio, he's an Italian left back, plays for Empoli, and he is one of the most underrated players in Serie A right now.
Wow.
Now, he's absolutely a bundle of joy to watch because, as you can see, he's not the biggest fella. He's not the most imposing fella, but he's got that feisty grit, determination, and not just classic Italian defending about him. But not only that, he's terrific at getting forward as well.
Brilliant.
He's 23 years old.
Great age.
Yes. And he since he's come into Empoli, he's just brought them on a whole new level. And you've seen that by the league positions, the teams they're beaten, etc. He's just played a vital part in just improving their overall squad. Yeah. So he's a little dream. Now, what I like about him the most, he's got brilliant endurance. He likes to get forward. Right, so the 3 left backs I've identified all have the same fundamentals, and that's terrific work rate. They're great off the ball and on the ball. They do just as much in the opposition's half as they do in the own half. So if you look at the heat map, it's around like the halfway line. It's very heated. But then they just thrive just in certain sections of the game in their own defensive duties and the offensive duties. And that's exactly what you want for your left back. You don't want them to overcompensate in one position and neglect the other. Do you know what I mean? So it just fits the bill of what we're trying to establish in that fluidity, but keeping the shape at the same time. And that's exactly what he brings. His agility when he's on the ball is extraordinary. Just weaving in and out of tight area. He thrives when he's got multiple players around him. Just little 1-2 combinations, little give and goes, and then a touch out of his feet and little overlaps. He loves the overlap. Absolutely loves it. And I think when you look at us play, we love that as well. So I think it kind of fits in what we do as a unit as well. So if you look at him, his stats-wise, he's making 2.7 tackles per game, 2.89 clearances. He's making 3.24 progressive carries, which is the 4th most in the Empoli squad. He's making 2.39 carries in the final third, which is the 2nd most in the Empoli squad. And then he's doing 2.04 take-ons successfully, which is in the 97% percentile.
Wow. Yeah.
And then finally, 7.41 ball recoveries, which is the 4th best in Serie A.
Wow.
Which is for somebody that he began his career at Juve and they let him go to Empoli. And I tweeted it out at the time. It was a wrong decision because he was excellent at youth level, and he's just brought that into his senior level, and he hasn't looked out of place at all. So he's definitely going under the radar, but he's terrific.
How much would we be looking at, Antonio, in terms of like a price? Like what's his market value, would you say, or what do you think we could get him for if we were to bid for him?
I think all of our players And another reason why I've picked him is because of loan value, because of the clubs they play at.
Yeah.
Emily have got some very, very good young players, but they tend to sell as well because they need to sell. Serie A clubs aren't rich like... The only rich Serie A clubs are Juve, really. Do you know what I mean? So if you can find a little gem at Emily, you can price them out for 10 million plus add-ons, maybe 15 million. Not very expensive at all.
Reasonable.
Interesting. I have to say, guys, I don't know about you, Chris, but I didn't know anything about Fabrizio Parisi at all.
No.
So this is the beauty of why we're doing this show, is because you've got players that you've identified, Antonio, that we don't know about, and there may be some in the chat that may not be aware of, but equally some may know who he is.
Yeah.
But some of those stats that you were talking about, and being one of the highest performers in certain areas in Serie A is impressive enough. I think, what you say, he's only 20, 22?
23, just
20.
turned 23, I believe.
Turned 23. So, still a young left back with plenty to offer, that's for sure. So really, really interesting that in terms of a sort of a left back option. Certainly can do more in both ends of the spectrum. But maybe let's go to the left back that we know about a little bit more of. And it's one player, actually, it's already been said in the chat, and someone's wishing that we actually talk about this player. And it's Adrian Truffer.
Yeah, great minds think alike.
Yeah, so there are people in the chat that know about him. Now, me and Chris were aware of him when we saw the name pop up. We were like, yeah, we recognise the name. But just talk to us about him. What club does he play for? How old is he? What does he offer, in your opinion, Antonio?
Yeah, so he plays for Stade de Reims in France. He's 21 years old, and throughout the past 2 seasons, he's really, really excelled. It seems like he's improved on everything that was his weakness. Now, as you can see, again, he's not the most imposing figure. He hasn't got the biggest stature. I mean, he's got legs. I mean, my legs are tiny. His look tiny on there, but he's very, very, very tough in the tackle when it needs to. He's aggressive. He's assertive. And what I like about him, you can tell he's been schooled from a great academy when you watch him play. He's great in his education when he technically, he's just an absolute dream. He's got the complete package you want from your left back. And the reason why I put him slightly ahead of Parisi is everything Parisi can do, he almost seems to do it better.
Wow.
In terms of like the tackles, the interceptions, he doesn't make as many progressive carries, but he absolutely thrives once he's in the final third. Yeah. His creativity is beyond his age. His technical ability, what I love about him the most is his body shape. So when he receives a ball, it's always open, and that just allows him to just play with like one beautiful smooth orientation of the body. And that's what you want from your fullback, because Parisi plays more like, whereas the ball's really tight to him.
Yeah.
Whereas Truffer is a little bit opposite. He likes to utilize the space more, which is, he's just an absolute dream. And he dominates the left side of the pitch. And he's strong, he's quick, and he adapts to different situations, and he understands the game more than Parisi in terms of when to press, when to keep his shape, and when he can get forward. He does that really, really well. And again, in terms of him stats-wise, he's really excellent. So again, not far off Parisi for his tackles, 2.61 per 90. He makes carries in the final third. He's very, very low, which is 0.45. But his carries into the penalty area are lower than Parisi's, but his carries in the final third are higher. So what he does is he gets into the final third and he distributes the ball to those more creative players rather than trying to do it all himself. And that's where I think his schooling's come from, where he's not afraid to say, yeah, you have it, you go and do your thing. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what I kind of feel puts him ahead of Parisi, because he makes right decisions at the right times. Whether that be clearing the ball, playing the ball, looking for a switch, he's terrific. Passes into the final third, 3.18, which is the 6th highest in Liga from any defender. And that's great. That's terrific. So, yeah, I just think he's absolutely phenomenal left back. That's going under the radar and shouldn't be. Yeah. In terms of valuation, because I know you're going to ask, I think he'll cost more than Parisi. I haven't looked at his market value at all. So this is just me assuming, but I'm assuming his market value is about 15, so you'll probably have to price him out for about 20, 25 or 20 plus add-ons maybe, but he would be a terrific find.
Interesting. What do you make of that? Because we knew a little bit about him, didn't we, Chris? Like,
yeah.
What do you make of kind of what he's talked about with Adrian Truffer? He's not the players that we've talked about. I mean, Shuri in the chat talked about it as an Arsenal fan, Kieran Tierney. We've talked about Borna Souza. We've talked about one or two other left backs and Bakker as well. You know, this is a different alternative here, and for 20-25 million, it looks like it could be in our price ranges. Would he be under consideration for you as an option this summer?
I mean, to be honest, when António was talking about the overlapping, I think for me that's the big thing that we've been missing this season. You know, Dan Burn, as fantastic as he's been, and you know he's local lad, he gives 110 every game. I think that's what we miss, and certainly our left wingers probably feel that as well, because you know Dan Burn doesn't always get himself up and down the pitch as quickly as you know we'd like probably. And we've spoken, haven't we, many times about how that's too many hows, how Eddie Howe would want to possibly change the shape or change the way that we play. We've spoken about it previously, haven't we, Pete? In that, you know, we know that Kieran Trippier likes to get up the pitch and then Dan Burn slots in as the third centre back. It could be, and this is something that we've spoken about previously, Antonio, that perhaps if we've got two very progressive two very progressive wing backs going forward, it could be that number 6, which at the moment has been Bruno, would then naturally drop into the middle and then create the 3 centre backs, and that could be why that we're focusing on maybe bringing in a new number 6, certainly a central midfielder anyway. So Truffer sounds like he would be a player of interest. Whether or not, I don't know whether he would fit the Eddie Howe profile, but certainly the things that you were talking about, Antonio, he seems to come with a fantastic reputation. And a lot of teams across Europe are interested in him. The fact that me and Pete have heard of him, that's always a good start, isn't it? Because I know some of the players that you've intricately looked at, myself and the average fan may not be aware of them. So the fact that you brought him up would kind of indicate that he's certainly a player that I would imagine will be on the list of Eddie Howe and his coaching staff.
honestly, I mean, the amount of stuff he can do in terms of different situations in tough moments of the game is terrific. So he absolutely understands the game to a technical level, to a P, and that's why I think he would fit the profile of a Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So definitely a one to watch, because if he doesn't come to Newcastle, I do think he'll go elsewhere.
Yeah. So you definitely think he'll be on the move. That's for sure.
100%.
Looking at the, I'm doing a Chris Hall here. Looking at the comparisons to Dan Burn, you can see there that from a creative, attacking, and a technical point of view, he is outperforming. Dan Burn is a better sort of tactically and defensively, but at 21 years old, there's lots of room for improvement there. That's for sure. So it kind of gives you an idea of what his outlay is. You know, it looks like there's more of an outlay. I think he got 6 assists this season. So you know he can provide moments of quality that can do bits going forward. But that just gives you a little snapshot. You know, what do you make of that, Chris, from a comparison point of view with Dan Burn?
Yeah, I mean it's exciting, isn't it? Because, like you say, Dan Burn predominantly looks better defensively, but in fairness, if Truffer is getting forward a lot more, that's probably why Dan Burn's stats are so solid defensively, because he spends a lot of his time slotting in, as we said earlier, into that left centre back position, if you like. But the fact that he's 21 and certainly in the creativity and technical and attacking wise, he's outdoing Dan Burn. That matches up with everything that Antonio said, and how much of a ceiling's he got. He can only get bigger and better, can't he? So he looking at that graph only makes me think that he looks like a real prospect.
Definitely. Well, we'll see. We'll see with regards to that. Now, there was another left back, but we'll leave that just for now. I know you wanted to talk about him, but let's move on to centre backs, because there's a few of them to get through, and so therefore we're probably going to need a little bit of time to get through some of these. Now, there's an interesting one, because this centre-back I had no idea about. He's a young centre-back. I want you to talk about him in particular. Nigerian centre-back, Benjamin Frederick. So talk to us about Benjamin Frederick. Where did you find Benjamin Frederick in your scouting missions, and what could he offer Newcastle as a potential young centre-back coming in, maybe as a long-term replacement for Fabian Schär?
Yeah, so I first came across Benjamin Fredericks when I watched the under 19s it was, African Cup of Nations.
Right.
Because I just think the talent pool in Africa, it just somebody needs to dive into there, because honestly, there's probably the most skilled technical ability I've probably ever seen for young footballers.
Wow.
Honestly, it's extraordinary.
Antonio, Africa has always been kind of an untapped resource for a long time. Yeah. It's only really when they come to, I don't know, you might think the same, Chris, actually, is that you see a lot of African players when they come to France or Spain, it's only really then that they get talked about, but they're never really plucked from Africa like first hand. And it's
where they tend to go first is Denmark.
Right, okay.
Denmark or Belgium first, and then they go on to Spain or Liga.
Well, we know that from our new signing, Antonio.
They tend to go to Denmark because they've got a link with the Right to Dream Academy that's based in Africa, who is owned by an ex-scout that worked at Manchester United called, what's his name again? Tom Buren. And he actually owns Nutchland in Denmark. So he tends to bring over a lot of African players from that academy into Nutchland. And I think if he doesn't get picked up by Barcelona, Benjamin Frederick will be the next rising star. He's outstanding. Sorry, what were you saying? I just wanted to get that in there.
No, that's a big statement.
Yeah.
Barcelona. What do you make of that, Chris?
Yeah, it's mad. I mean, you could tell even when Antonio started talking about him, when you said that he's like one of the best youngsters you've seen. It makes you feel like getting on the phone to Newcastle, doesn't it? And going, listen, you need to have a watch of this, lads. Although I must admit, I would be very surprised if the club weren't already aware of him.
Yeah,
That's where.
Exactly.
Works.
Exactly.
Honestly, do you know when you watch somebody, and sometimes I come across players and I think, oh, they're just having a good game. But when I watched this boy, I thought, he's special, he's different. He hits different. So if you don't know much about him, he's 6'1". He plays for a team that actually call themselves NUFC. So it fits the bill.
Sign him up.
It does, doesn't it?
Sign him up.
Yous are sold already.
Done.
But
Take the money.
Their name is now Sarawa United Football Club. Obviously based in Nigeria. But what I love about this boy is taking away everything he does on the ball, just his organization of his defenders is absolutely belies his age, because the way he just commands where everyone to be, he's always talking, he's communicating with his midfield, with his goalkeeper, with his right back, with his left centre back. He's always talking and communicating. And you see it on the pitch, he's pointing everywhere and telling everybody where to be. So he understands the technical level of the game to the highest level already. Like, it's elite. It's unbelievable. And he just took me breath away with that. But not only that, he's incredible on the ball. He's got a little bit of swagger and elegance about him when he's on the ball as well. His first touch is clean. Everything he does is clean. Like,
and how old is he, Antonio?
He's 19.
Ooh.
So a
Great
bit young.
age. It's a great age. I love that finger point, Chris. It's a great age. Sorry, Antonio.
No, you're fine. This was my one for the future, to maybe bring in and just keep him around the club and just let him get comfort in his own new surroundings. And
Antonio, just to make it nice and easy for Eddie and Jason Tyndall and Darren Eales when they're watching this show, how much do you think market value wise? Because you've seen, we were talking about earlier, weren't we, that we've signed Minteh. So how, you're talking about bringing him in and maybe loaning him out or just getting him used to the vibe, the club, the country. How much do you think it would cost to sign Fredericks from NUFC?
Next to nothing.
Yeah.
Honestly, 10 million lower. Because again, these Nigerian clubs are not NUFC are established in the top league, but they're always battling relegation. They're not one of those top tier clubs. So again, they need money. That's why if you look at their players, I don't think one of their players is above 23. So like, they purposely bring through youth just to sell them And that's the way they do it. They're bringing money. Whatever money they can get, they'll take. I'm telling you, they would sell for cheap. And if you look at his pass accuracy, he's above 70% pass accuracy. He delivers a successful 3 long balls per game. He's averaging 3.8 successful tackles per game and 5.2 clearances per game. So not only is he strong, robust in the tackle, he's excellent at reading the game as well. He's terrific, honestly.
I tell you what, there'll be some YouTube videos going off after this.
Yeah,
that is for sure. We've had a few players that not a lot of people would have known about, a few that would have, but regardless, people are going to be looking at some of these players because I tell you what, Benjamin Frederick, I am very, very interested in him. That's for sure, and I think a lot of other people are too. Look, breaking play. Lisa Mole back from a tee, absolutely spot on. There's 180 plus watching. Thank you for all tuning in. If you haven't clicked the like or subscribe, click it right now. We're well on the way to 6K. I think we're 350 away or around that sort of number. So get us on the way there as soon as it is possible. And most importantly, thank you for watching.
Can I mention one thing?
Go for it.
I've wrote a list of players that I want to share with the audience on each section. So for left backs, Valentin Barco. Please, please, please go and check him out. His nickname's El Colo. He's got ginger hair. He's a Brazilian.
There he is.
You can see. You wouldn't.
He's a Brazilian.
You would not put him. Sorry, he's not Brazilian. He's Argentine. You would not put him as an Argentine looking at him. Nah. But please, if you haven't done so already, he blows your mind. He will, honestly. So go and check him out. And the other players are Alan Maturo, who is a left back that plays for Genoa.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you've all heard of this player, Facundo Mendia. Check him out. He plays in Liga. And then we've got Luca Netz, the left back, young left back, and Borussia Mönchengladbach. And my personal favourite, Jesus Vasquez of Valencia. Now, I'm telling you, he's the next Gareth Bale. Putting it out there.
Ooh.
I don't even think he's going to be a left back. I think he's going to transition into a left winger eventually. That's my...
Just say his name again. Jesus Vasquez. Is that right?
Yeah, Jesus Vasquez plays for Valencia.
Ooh, okay.
There's
a few gems there that we hadn't got prepared that Antonio's just threw in live on the show tonight. So
I'm telling you, I had to shorten it to like 2 players, which was the most difficult thing to do. So I just want to mention a few.
We gave you the remit, but definitely Jesus Vasquez. I will be searching him. I'm sure many others will be as well tonight. But next Gareth Bale, that's a big statement. He must have supreme talent. Right.
I'm not saying he's going to hit those heights, but I'm saying he's got that style of charisma and style about him.
He's got those levels to his game potential. Yeah. I do believe there is a super chat.
Super chat received. Super chat received.
Chris, I don't know if you want to throw it up.
The most certainly is. I need to send an apology to Andy Forsyth. So Andy, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. It's much appreciated. Normally we throw our super chats up immediately, and apologies, it was my error. But Andy Forsyth asks ourselves, lads, do you think that we will spend under 100 million or over 100 million? So Antonio, I'm going to start with you. Newcastle United.
Why? Why start with me?
We're putting you on the block first.
I just wanted to sit on the fence like all others. Right. Oh, I believe for the reason that we're probably 3 steps ahead of what we expected, we will spend over 100 million. Because I don't think we're expected to get in the Champions League. So it's now like we're in there, we need to maintain this.
Yeah.
Rather than we're just in there just to make up the numbers.
Yeah.
And I think if we hadn't made the Champions League, I would have said under. But I think for that reason, I've got to say over.
Yeah. What about you, Pete?
I was about to ask you the same. I was about to say, Chris, what about you?
I can. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you my figure. And this is just a punt, by the way. I don't know anything, obviously. I think we will. My safety barrier. I think we will spend over 150. That's what I think. So to answer the question, I think it will be over 100. And I'm going to say 150 because I do. I've been toying with it the last few days, and I've been, really thinking about it. But I wonder whether they'll just maybe go in at that level and then obviously hold a little bit of money back for January, because we know that in January there can be the odd surprise that turns up. So maybe they'll want to, keep the powder dry for January just in case something crops up. So I think it'll be over 150. So to answer Andy's question, I do think it'll be over 100.
Interesting. Right.
And you're not getting away with it.
Come on, Pete.
I was back to the centre backs. I was about to move it on. I'll be honest with you. Don't be surprised that by the end of the January transfer window 2024, that we've spent close to 250 million.
Ooh.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
So by the end of January 2024, I believe that Newcastle would have spent close to 250.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. But in terms of the summer, yeah, I think you're in the right ballpark, Chris. I think anywhere around 150, 170 for the summer market, with who's been linked and who I believe we can get. I think anywhere between 150, 170, I think that's a good number. It's a great number.
I think after Antonio's shout, it might be pushed up a little bit more. Who knows?
A couple of those boys that we weren't expecting are definitely in the mix. And I tell you what, brings us nicely to the next section, because I say the next section, the next player, because this player has been linked with us today, in fact. And it's another centre-back that some of us will know about. It's Mohamed Simakan. And some of you may well know about him. Look, Antonio, I'm going to let you talk about him in a second. But friend of the channel, Ollie Hawkins from the NUFC blog, put a story out today saying Newcastle showing strong interest in Mohamed Simakan, and that came from the original story in The Guardian. So RB Leipzig defender Mohamed Simakan, who I know you've been watching, Antonio, because we talked about him way back in December 2022 as a player that you've been keeping a close eye on with regards to him. So look, Mohamed Simakan, talk to us. Tell us about him. Who is he? His age? What could he potentially give to Newcastle in that centre-back position?
Yeah, so you probably all know Simakan already. So he's 23 years old, born in Marseille, and he currently plays for Red Bull Leipzig. So plays as a right centre-back. The thing is with Leipzig, they play with a back three, not a back four. So I find it quite an interesting signing, because that to me tells me that Eddie Howe is looking at different formulas going into the Champions League. looking to not be a one-trick pony in terms of formation-wise. He can play right back, and he's also played defensive midfield, believe it or not, on a few occasions.
Now, I just wanted to add, just before you continue, that I had a little cheeky look at his heat map, and a lot of the season he has played on that right-hand side. He has played on that right-hand side, ultimately as a right back. But yeah,
I'm laughing, Pete, because we've just been converted, haven't we? We just like that now. We're just all about stats and heat maps and comparisons. It's just like, So I'm amazed up. You've checked that.
But we had that conversation, didn't we, Chris, about who could potentially be a backup to Trippier. Now, it could well be, and look, Antonio, you might know a little bit more on this. It'd be great for someone like Mohamed Simakan to come in because, like you just said, quite rightly, Antonio, that he plays centre back, but he can also fill in at right back, and it looks like he has filled in chunks of the season at right back. So could that be great? He's got great hair. Could it be
stylish, isn't he?
There you go. Carry on. Sorry.
Without a doubt, he can fill in at right back. He's done it many times for Leipzig, but maybe in a more progressive right back as well. Even though he's not perhaps the most, a lot of people when they think of Simakan, think he's like a Frimpong, for example, where he just drives forward on every opportunity. He doesn't. He doesn't perhaps do that.
You're referring to Frimpong from Leverkusen, is that right?
Yes. Sorry,
right back.
Yeah. So he's a more, how can I put this, controlled right back when he plays. But again, his fundamentals stay exactly the same. Now, what I love about Simakan, and a lot of people don't know about him, but he was born in Marseille. He played for a local professional club. I'm forgetting the name of, is it Prunau? It's called Rockinen or something from France. And he actually started out as a striker. And for the under 11s, he scored over 130 goals in one season. And that caught the eye of Marseille, who trialed him, signed him, but then Marseille instantly put him as a centre-back. Which was...
Do you know what? I always like the idea of that, because you do hear of players who used to be a forward and stuff like that. And I always like the idea of defenders who've converted from forward line, because I think Scott McTominay was the same. I know obviously he's more defensive midfield, but he apparently used to be a striker. And I think if you're brought up with that, you don't lose that instinct of when to make the run, when to where to be in the box and stuff like that. So I always like the idea of defenders who've been converted from forwards, because I always think in the opposition box they've still got that instinct. They still know. There's certain defenders, isn't there, who have never been a forward, and you can kind of tell they've never been a forward because they're just not that way inclined. But when you've got players who've used to be, you can see it.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, mate. Because not only does it give him those instincts when he's attacking, it also gives him those instincts when he's defending.
Yeah.
So he understands what the forwards, he knows what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So and also it's allowed him to be very, very, very accomplished technically.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? His first touch is exquisite. He's just oozes class when he's on the ball. Oozes style and class. Now, what was interesting is when he went to Marseille, even though he went as a forward, he did not play one single game as a forward. His first game was as a centre-back. And you were almost like, how? Why?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's just scored 130 goals, but you want to play him as a centre-back.
Yeah.
And look at him now. He's absolutely come on leaps and bounds. So what the type of player he is very, 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 very strong, physically gifted, imposing. But not only that, he's exceptionally quick. So he's almost like an attacker's nightmare. He's quick on his toes, but he's aggressive and he just physically imposes himself on the attacker. So he will step out of line. And that's probably, you see that in his heat map. He likes to step out of line and challenge his attackers early. But he's got that pace to recover the ball when needs be. So, like, if you look at his tackles, he doesn't make many tackles per game, but when he does them, so the way I can put it is, if you look at his stats against everybody in the Bundesliga, it's quite low in terms of tackles per game for defenders, but he's high rated on tackling successfully. So the way I look at that is he doesn't expose himself. He knows exactly the right opportunity of when he can win the ball. So he very, very rarely mistimes a tackle because he doesn't get... Because forwards are very, very good at manipulating defenders into drawing them into a tackle. Yeah. Whereas Simakan's very, very good at understanding that and not being manipulated into lunging in for a tackle. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So he's very, very established and accomplished on what he's going to try out. Do you know what I mean? So he holds his shape well. He tackles successfully. He makes a lot of clearances in 2.84. And he makes the most touches in the RB Leipzig out of all the RB Leipzig defenders. And don't forget they've got Gaviot, who is terrific on the ball.
Yeah.
And Simakan makes more touches per game than him. So you can tell how established he is on the ball. But one stat that blew my mind, playing as a centre-back, he makes 4.4 passes into the final third.
Wow.
And that just shows how progressive he is.
So would you say he's a bit of a ball carrier then, Antonio? So he's someone who would quite happily go forward with the ball, because you're mentioning that he makes those final thirds. I'm assuming he's got to be at least halfway line, if not further beyond, to make that pass.
He understands his limits though, so he tends to stop just before or at the halfway line in terms of ball carrying. He doesn't over elaborate and completely neglect these defensive areas.
Now,
and leave a big shape.
Just to add to that, I'll just throw in this. Okay, I've done it again, Chris. I apologize.
No, go for it, mate. Go for it.
Here you have the stats, and I'm using the right centre back situation with Fabian Shaw. Now, if you look at that, certainly the green, he is very similar to Fabian Shaw. And the reason why I brought it up now is for the conversation that you guys are just having, is because actually he is. You're talking about that progressive player and that player that's good on the ball and bringing forward. That's what Fabian Shaw has been this season for us.
Yeah.
But if you look at the stats, certainly the defensive stats and the tactical stats, Fabian Shaw is better. But what we're looking at is that progressiveness, the attacking, the creative, the technical element. He actually outperforms him, which, that because ultimately, look, am I wrong in thinking? And people in the chat, throw your opinions out here. We do want someone that's going to come in and take the Fabian Shaw mold, because we love Fabian Shaw. Fabian Shaw has been great for us this season, but he's 31, nearly 32. And we need to look at who's going to come in and be that next guy that's going to take us forward. So from what you guys have just been saying with regards to his progressive passing and being able to be good on the ball and a lot of touches, Does that fill you with confidence? Chris, I'll come to you with regard to that, seeing those stats purely from an attacking, creative, and technical point of view.
Yeah, because I mean, the best way I can describe it, Pete, is if you think about the Premier League this season and you think about defenders who are good going forward and good carrying the ball, I can't actually think of many who are better than Fabian Schär or have been last season. So the fact that this guy has got better stats than Schär is promising. And like we've said before, 23 years old, plenty of room for improvement. What excited me most when Antonio was talking about him is the fact that he's big, powerful, strong, and he's very, very quick.
Yeah.
And this is what we were talking about this separately, Antonio, on a previous show, saying that, as great as Sven Botman is, and, we think he's brilliant, and hopefully he's going to be the Newcastle centre-back for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. One thing that we are aware of and we're conscious of, and we think that Eddie Howe is also conscious of, is the fact that Sven Botman, albeit he's not slow, he's probably not the quickest. So we thought that maybe he'd want a partner next to him who can maybe, tidy things up or do those recovery tackles or those recovery moments if a team get in behind. We saw what happened, didn't we? Correct me if I'm wrong, it was at St James's Park, wasn't it, against Liverpool? And we had 2 balls over the top and we were just caught out twice. And, if we had that quick, fast, powerful, strong centre-back who was able to make that recovery and catch up with Núñez, would we have been 2-0 down? Who knows? So, yeah, from what Antonio was saying, yeah, I think he'd be a big player. Out of interest, boys, by the way, because I'll be honest, as I was telling you at the start of the show, I haven't really seen anything on Twitter or anything like that. But out of interest, how much is it looking like to prize him away from RB Leipzig?
Well, I know his valuation is about 30 million.
Right.
So Leipzig aren't going to sell for cheap. They're not a club that sell for cheap.
Don't need to.
Yeah, they don't. So Leipzig are very, very, very rich. So I think you're going to be looking at 60, 50 million prize amount.
Right. Okay. Wow.
Just
to jump in, I'm gonna be a bit better this time, Pete. We've got another super chat. Tony Beasley, thank you so much for that, mate. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Next time, Tony,
Super
and anyone else.
Received. Super chat received.
My bad.
No. I was just gonna say next time, Tony, or anybody who'd like to give a super chat, don't forget stick a comment in with it as well, and obviously we'll read it out or a question or.
I've got a feeling he did, and I'm just going to go and try and find it because I think further down he did come with a comment afterwards. But I'll try and find it. If I do, I'll.
Is this it? Is this it?
Yeah. Go for it, lads. You're one player who you think joins Newcastle this summer. In his opinion, in Tony's opinion, Tierney is nailed on. Antonio, who do you think is a nailed-on player to sign for Newcastle United?
Antonio.
You're the guest. We're putting you on the block. Standard procedure. This is standard procedure. In fact, okay. Look, I feel bad now, Chris. I'll come to you instead. I'll give you some time to think about it, Antonio.
Yeah, I was going to say mine's nice and easy. I've got mine ready.
Go on, go for it.
I think Maddison. And do you know what? If you'd have asked me a few weeks back, I may have said somebody different, but I just think everything's pointing to Maddison. And all I keep hearing is it's between Newcastle and Tottenham. And without being disrespectful, I just don't see how he picks Tottenham. I just don't. They've just hired the former Celtic manager, which I've got my own opinion on. I'm not going to go into it. Yeah. They've got no European football. Harry Kane is possibly, well, even if he stays, he's only got 1 year left on his deal. Kulusevski, is he staying? Will Son stay? There's just so much uncertainty. So if it's a straight shootout between Newcastle and Tottenham, I think there's only one answer. And I think if we push and really try and get that deal in early, I think he could even be the first I won't say the first signing because obviously we signed Minteh, but the first stellar signing of the summer, I think it'll be James Maddison.
You don't have to ask me. You know, my loving with Maddison. But what do you think, Antonio? Is there any player out there you think, Maddison or other, that you think is going to come into Newcastle?
Right. I was going to say Maddison, but I'm not going to sit in the fence. So I'm going to throw a curveball because I don't think it'll be Kieran Tierney.
Oh.
I don't think we're going to sign him.
Interesting.
For what reason, Antonio? Now, is that just your own gut feeling, or is it because
it's
you
more
don't think stats wise he links?
No, I think he's unbelievable. I think he's unbelievable. But it's my gut feeling because of his injury record. That's the only thing I can think is putting Eddie Howe off. Yeah. And because if you look at the price Arsenal want,
it's a big price.
And he's not guaranteed to stay fit. If you look at his past 3 seasons, he's hardly. I know he had a good season between one of them, but last season he hardly played. Do you know what I mean? And the price they'll be looking for, although I think he's terrific, I honestly do. That's my thinking. It's just a good feeling. I could be absolutely wrong. But the one player who I think, Maddison aside, I think he's nailed on for those reasons. So the next down, I think, is Felix Nmecha.
Oh, you think Nmecha? I thought you were going to say João Felix then.
That's why I said Felix to see if anybody would say João. But yes, Nmecha, I think his profile, I like it. It's out this world how fitting it is to Newcastle United. Ooh. I think he is nailed on for our signing.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Well, we did a show on it last night.
Yeah, do you know what? And Pete, sorry to throw us off topic here. Antonio, we did our very best to do a show on Nmecha last night, and we tried our best. And we were first out there, by the way. But now we've got you. Can you tell us a little bit about a few more intricate details on Nmecha? You know, you say that he fits the profile exactly. What are the key attributes of Nmecha, and why do you think that he's somebody Eddie Howe would be particularly interested in?
Yeah, now, sorry guys, I missed the show last night, so I don't know what was said. So I'm sorry if I'm. I am a busy man.
It was 5 minutes, mate. It was 5 minutes, and we went, should we go live for a show? Yeah, let's go live for a show. So we just went out.
That's
there.
What you like, just off the cuff like that, like you've done to me now.
Yeah, exactly. We threw you under a bus again, but we did do a show. However, to be fair, Chris, he was one of the conversations for our centre midfield tonight. So Antonio was going to talk about it, but we'll do it right now.
Sorry.
Don't apologise. Do not apologise. Talk to us about Felix Nmecha. What can you tell us, fella?
So, just a bit background on him, in case some of you have already probably read up on it. So, don't need me to tell you, but he was born in Hamburg, Germany. His parents moved to England when he was younger with his older brother, Lucas, who is also a professional footballer. And they both signed in Manchester City's academy when they were younger and rose through the ranks of Manchester City. Now, there's no better place to learn your football right now than that academy. I'll tell you that. Yeah. And so he was handed his debut by Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola came out afterwards and said he had everything to reach the top level. However, he assisted if you can't remember on his debuts, he assisted João Cancelo in the Champions League against Hoffenheim. So he provided an assist in that, and I think it was a 3-0 win, comfortable win. So he got on the assist sheet then, and afterwards he had a horrible injury, which just derailed his momentum. And he took it upon himself, even though City wanted to keep him, took it upon himself to follow his brother at Wolfsburg. And last season wasn't great. He had an injury hit season because he wasn't fully recovered from his injury at Man City. But this season, boy, my God, he has just blew the Bundesliga out of the water. And I mean blew them out of the water. He's just excelling on every single department you can possibly think of. And he's changed his position. So I first came across him watching him in the UEFA Youth League. I think it was 2016, where he was changing between a Man City played with a 4-3-3. He was playing as a left-sided midfielder in a 3, or as a central striker. Every other game, he would just change between the two. And he couldn't really establish himself and really gain momentum in one position. So when he first came into Man City, he was seen as more of an attacker, seen as more of a striker, somebody, a creative player in the final third. When he went to Wolfsburg, he's now more of a complete box-to-box midfielder. And I think that suits his attributes unbelievably. So, if you don't know much about him, what I like about him the most is awareness of space and time on the pitch. It's unbelievable. It's the type of player that just oozes class. And when we got linked to him yesterday, you've probably searched him on Google or what have you. And yes, he has been likened to Zinedine Zidane. Now,
We said this, didn't we? We said this.
Oh, did you? So I'm
we
not
said last night.
going to reach those heights, but when you watch him play, his characteristics are the same. So his first touch, what he does, what everybody remembers when Zidane controlled that ball on the half turn with like a back foot, took it away from the player. That's exactly Nmecha. That's exactly his style. So he loves to drag back, cut inside, just first time touch that just oozes class to take it away from the challenger, and he just excites you when he's on the ball. He's creative in everything he does. He's skillful. He's got an exquisite first touch. He's determined on and off the ball. Now, what the word I put around him is athleticism. He's so athletic. It's unbelievable. And what he's worked on, because he was very weak he's very tall, but he used to be very slight in frame and fragile. But now he's filled out. Seems like he's just hit 21. He's just grew and filled out, and he's a lot more robust and physical and strong. Now, underlying some of these stats to put up what I'm trying to say is he fits the mold of a number 8 Newcastle player. Think of Joe Linton when I say this. So he's 4th in the Bundesliga for progressive passes, and that he's hitting the 97th percentile. He's 7th for key passes, and he makes 2 per game. He's 3rd on assists and that's 5. He's 10th for progressive carries. He's 6th for creating chances, and that's goal scoring chances and shot creating chances. And you think this is the Bundesliga, by the way?
I was going to say, this is over the course of the league, isn't it?
Yeah.
Over the course of the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
Because these finishing in the top 10 for some of these stats should not be taken lightly.
Well, let us tell you this. Every stat I'm telling you now, he's inside the top 8. Apart from one where he's in the top 10 for progressive carries, which I mentioned. So he's 5th for tackles won. He's 7th for tackles won in the defensive third. 2nd for tackles won in middle third. And 4th for tackles won in the attacking third. Now, not only that, he's 6th for interceptions for 31. He's 5th for successful take-ons at 56.5. He's 7th for progressive carries into the final third with 22. And he's 4th for progressive ball receives. So not only does he excel on the ball, he excels with his movement and finding space off the ball in advanced areas when he has to. And he's sitting 4th in the Bundesliga, and he's racked up 117 progressive ball carries received. Those numbers are just out this world for a player returned from injury. Like, the mentality he showed to reach those levels this season. And Wolfsburg, before at the start of the season, he was injured. Wolfsburg weren't on a good run. They were sitting 14th in the league. Since he's come in the side, they finished 7th, 1 point away from European football. And that was unthinkable in the first 10 games. So, like, he's just put Wolfsburg onto a different level. He's honestly, on and off the ball, he's absolutely complete. He's like a Joe Linton, but better in the final third.
And this is what we said last night, Chris. You know what? I love it, Antonio. Absolutely spot on. I love the stats. I love the background knowledge because, look, we'd seen little snippets of him. We didn't know too much about Felix Nmecha, and we did a show last night to talk about what we'd maybe seen, videos, various other things. But what you're saying and how you're kind of describing him as a player, and we kind of said the same. We said, like, one of the things we said, he's like a Joe Linton, but technically by far greater on the ball, quality going forward. And Joe Linton, 7 goals this season. You know, he probably could have got double figures had he not got injured towards the back end of the season. Probably could have got into double figures with the way he was playing. So that's no mean feat. But what you're getting there is a player that can do both jobs very, very well. Chris, this is what we were talking about, wasn't it? And to be fair, you might even have them now. You had some of those comparison stats available. I don't know if you want to fly over them, mate.
Do you know what, mate? They were at the bottom. I've put them at the bottom of the brands.
One thing I want to mention is I did a thread report on Jude Bellingham, for example.
Now,
we've got it.
Carry on, Anthony. You're vibing with us right now. You're vibing with us. I love it.
So I did a player thread on Jude Bellingham, and Jude Bellingham for Dortmund was playing slightly deeper at the time, although he was box to box. Now, what my weakness in Jude Bellingham was, he tried to do it all. He tried to do everything too much. Just tried to be everywhere at one time. Whereas Felix Nmecha is more educated on what to do and when to do it, if that makes sense. So he understands his role and doesn't try to over elaborate on too much, doesn't try to do too much unnecessary work. If that makes sense. Whereas Jude Bellingham does. And I think that's what I haven't compared the stats, but I can bet you.
I'm going to throw it up for you now, mate. You ready?
Oh, yeah, they're pretty close. Or Nmecha's a little bit better.
So the green is Nmecha and the blue is Bellingham.
Right. So they're very, very close.
Very similar, mate. Very, very similar.
But Bellingham's excelling a little bit more.
Mm.
But that
when you
could
think
be experience in game time and everything, in injuries and everything you've got to take in consideration. But as you know, he's that type of midfielder.
Yeah. And funnily enough, Antonio, this was another one that we did earlier, which was Joe Linton.
Joe Linton, there you
were saying how similar he is to Joe Linton.
Yeah. Brilliant. Very, very similar. But as you can see, I mean, when I mentioned the tactical level, he understands the game a little bit better than Joe Linton. So, yeah. Oh, no, sorry. Is Joe Linton the blue or?
Joe Linton's the blue.
Right. So, he's a little bit more creative, as I alluded on.
Yeah.
But very, very similar in terms of technical. I mean, the attacking-wise, exactly the same, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is what you were talking about earlier. Where this is his heat map for the season gone. So
he does just as much in the defensive third as he does in the attacking third. He's outstanding. What I like. The word I call him is house. He's just a house. He's a unit. But he's got like a little bit of elegance and like charisma and style and class about him, whereas he's got that first touch that just you would think of it as like an attacking midfielder would.
So is he a bit more cultured than a Papa Bouba Diop, who was often called the wardrobe? So Nmecha's got more to his game, so he's a house.
Yeah, like in terms of physicality, he's a house. Like he's very difficult to knock off the ball. I remember him, the unit. He was
massive, wasn't he? He was massive, but he carried the ball fantastically. And as you say, big, tall fella, and he used to just carry the ball, and you couldn't get it off him, which is a bit what we've seen this season from Joe Linton, which none of us knew he had in his locker. But once Joe's got the ball, it's very, very difficult to get it off him, and he carries the ball really well. So if we had, a Joe Linton on the left side and a Nmecha on the right-hand side, it's a very combative central midfield, isn't it? And this is Eddie Howe looks like he wants to build. He wants a big, powerful, strong team. Pete, we've spoken, haven't we, about the Jose Mourinho side when he first came into Chelsea, and he just built a team full of massive players, and they were just too dominant against the other teams. Quick, powerful, technically very good, and really imposing on the opposition.
And I think that's what you need nowadays in the Premier League.
Mm.
Although you need those little humble, like nibble, you need a bit of everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need that physicality, because if you don't have it, you're just going to be run over.
Especially in a high press team, Antonio, and that's what we are. Very, very high press team.
100%. You made some great points. As always, it's fascinating to hear about it, and a lot of the comparisons are there for all to see. That's for sure. And look, we're not the only ones. There's a number of people that are loving what we're seeing right now. Lisa Moore, one of our resident spanners, I think NUFC should employ Antonio. We'd agree, because your knowledge on these players and picking out these players and able to talk about them so openly and freely is great to see, Antonio. And Yano's got a question for you. Is he better than Longstaff?
Yes.
There we go. There we
Although
have it.
I would give Longstaff his credit, because
Yeah.
I think this season he's come on leaps, by the way. He's done his role brilliantly, but yes, he would be an improvement.
I was going to say, I'm sure I had the Longstaff comparison. See if I can find it. Pete, carry on, and I'll see if I can find it.
Definitely. Look, we will switch tact slightly, and we'll continue on. And the reason being is because look, I think we've covered our.
That's not it. Yeah, got the wrong one.
No, it's fine. We'll continue on because we have switched to centre midfield. So there's we'll only look at maybe one, and you can talk about another in a little bit detail because I know there's one player you want to talk about in centre midfield, and then we'll go on to the attacking area just to wrap up these 4 positions. But talk to us about. Oh, hold on.
Sorry, Pete. That was it.
Go for it.
Just thought I'd throw it up just before we go. Yeah, that was Nmecha versus Sean Longstaff.
Yeah,
very interesting.
Spot on. So Longstaff would be in the blue.
Yeah, that's right.
And Nmecha is the green, so it shows you that his output is far greater than Longstaff. And Longstaff's had a good season for Newcastle.
Yeah.
So it shows the ability there, but absolutely spot on, Chris, as always. Other centre midfielders, there's 2 others. Maybe not as high profile as Nmecha, certainly in the last 24 hours in being talked about, but a player you talked about before that's really interesting from the French league, Enzo Lefebvre. Talk to us about Enzo Lefebvre and who's he played for, what's his position, what's he capable of. We'll kind of move through these other 2 centre midfielders quickly to move on to the wingers. But talk to us about Enzo Lefebvre.
Yeah, so I'll try and be brief so I could talk about these players for hours and hours and hours. So I'll try and shorten it down for you all. But yeah, Enzo Lefebvre, born in Lorient, plays for Lorient. He's playing for his boyhood club. He absolutely loves his club. And he is one of the most intelligent footballers I've ever met, ever seen play. Sorry, I'm just going to plug my laptop in because it's running out of battery.
Go for it.
Yeah, he's absolutely versatile. So he excels in every single position possible. So we've seen him play as a number 6, as a number 8, as an attacking midfielder, as a solid centre midfielder. He's played every single position possible for Lorient. And he's done it seamlessly, never taken anything away from his game. He's disciplined, he's agile, his ball retention is absolutely phenomenal. And I mean phenomenal. He's great in tight areas. He's when I say dirty, that's the wrong word to use. He's feisty off the ball. So he doesn't, despite his small height, his small frame, he dives in. He doesn't dive into tackles. He aggressively asserts himself in the tackles. And he just oozes style, confidence, composure. He just brings everything. If you look at his heat map, he covers every single blade of grass and he'll run his socks off from the first minute to the absolute last in every single game, no matter if they're losing 5-0, they're winning 5-0. He does not care. He loves playing football. He's passionate. Every aspect of his game, he's passionate in what he does. And that's the biggest compliment I can give him. Stats-wise, phenomenal. So he's expected assists. He's averaging the best in Lorient, which is 7.4. 7.4 expected assists he's averaging. It's crazy numbers. He's shot creation actions is 3.57, which has him in the 96th percentile across Europe. His tackles 3.21. He's second most tackler, successful tackler in Liga. Progressive carries 2.85. Ball recoveries 7.13. Extraordinary. And then what he tends to do is he likes to get on the ball. He loves being on the ball. And he tends to switch it to either flank. His accuracy and his passing is terrific. He never, ever, very rarely, should I say, misplaces a pass. Look
There's
at
his
this
heat map.
It's extraordinary.
That's crazy.
Like
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. And if you think of who's everywhere, like an N'Golo Conte,
Yeah.
like he just runs and runs and runs and runs. That's him. He'll just run every blade of grass possible. But he loves to switch a ball predominantly to the left flank. I don't know why that's his favourite, but he loves to do it. Whether that be into space or into feet, his accuracy is brilliant. And honestly, it blows my mind he hasn't left Lorient already. Absolutely blows my mind. He's terrific.
Interesting. And what I'll throw it up whilst we're here. I did a James Maddison comparison just whilst you were talking on there. Obviously, James Maddison is in blue, so you can see that the attacking creativity, tactical is higher. But for Enzo Laffi, 23 years old, he's not far off it. Not far off it at all. Very
don't forget
player and outlet.
Probably the least position he's played isn't as attacking midfield. So whereas Maddison, his job role is to create, Enzo Laffi, that's not his job role, but yet he's still doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. Enzo Laffi, keep an eye on him because he at Lorient is a very, very talented young player. And I just want you to talk about this player because you mentioned him. You said you're going to talk about him anyway. So we might as well throw his picture up, and it's Arthur Vermeeren. Talk to us about him. Why are you so buzzing to talk about this centre midfielder? Why is he an important one for you?
Because he's just excellent. That's the easiest way of putting it. His vision on the ball is terrific. He's the way he gets on the ball is terrific. Finding space, not only that, he creates space for others. He steps out of line to block out opposition's fluidity even before the begin. The way he just reads the game is absolutely extraordinary, and he's terrific in his defensive duties as well. Averaging 2.5 tackles per game, 1.38 interceptions per game. His pass accuracy is 95% per game.
Wow.
He's extraordinary. And he's playing in the Belgium League for Royal Antwerp. He's 18 years old and he's cementing his place in their team. And he's already being linked, and I know for a fact from a good friend of mine, he's currently getting scouted by Real Madrid, Barcelona, all of them top European clubs. Man United, Man City are all currently scouting this boy because he's had a hype about him for a while and nobody quite knew because he's quite slim build. Nobody quite knew what he would be like stepping into senior level.
Yeah.
But he's just took it in his stride. And honestly, he's excellent both on and off the ball. That's the biggest compliment I can give him.
Interesting. He was a player that I knew you wanted to talk about in a little bit of detail because he is a player that you obviously admire a lot. And there are a couple of we've talked about Nmecha. Enzo Lafi, an interesting player. I know we'd spoken about him before, and he'd been talked about. Actually, someone has put in the chat. I'll just go to Africa. I might have started, Chris, 1 second. Foxy,
Yeah,
of course, Foxy, always. Sociedad looking to hijack the Lafi move to Rennes.
I did see that.
Looking like that could be potentially something to look out for. So, interesting that with Lafi. So he's clearly a player that is being looked at very, very carefully. But look, I know there's maybe, I don't know if you want to name a couple of centre midfielders that we haven't yet talked about.
Oh, off the top of my head.
If you want to throw a couple out there, just names so people can go and have a look at them.
So
maybe next time we can have a look in a bit more detail.
The breakout stars, I think, will be very, very soon. One sooner than the other, which will be Fabrizio Diaz. Plays for Liverpool UV in Uruguay. He is unbelievable. And when I mean complete, I mean complete. I'm not going into detail about him, but I've wrote already, and it's out on Twitter. I've wrote a scout report on him. So if you just go on my profile, I've linked all my scout reports in one pinned tweet. So go on it, read about him, because everything you need to know is in that scout report. But he captained the Uruguay under 20s, took them to the final of the under 20 Commons Ball, and they got beat by Brazil, a terrific Brazil team. And then he's took them into the under 20s World Cup, and on the weekend they just beat Italy in the final, and he captained them. He's a leader. He's commanding. Oh, he excites me so much.
Interesting, very interesting. Keep an eye on that one as well. Any others? I think there's Federico Redondo that you wanted to talk about as well.
I think you'll know his dad played for Real Madrid.
Yes. We're talking about him.
Yes.
Do you remember I said Redondo?
Redondo,
That's his dad. So
no way.
Yeah, so he plays same position. Centre midfielder. He's a touch of class. Let me tell you that. He is one of those boys that, do you know when you find players that always seem to have time on the ball, where no matter what's the word I'm looking for? How frantic everybody is around them. He just doesn't care, and he's just like a little touch with the outside of his foot, and he's just like, everything he does looks in slow motion, but it's not, if that makes sense. He just finds time and space beautifully. His pass accuracy is terrific. He's elegant. He's savvy on the ball. He orchestrates attacks. He's a progressive player, and he's got an aggressive defensive style. It's beautiful to see. Redondo, 90% pass accuracy. Although he plays more defensively for Argentinos, that's his club in Argentina, he's averaging 3 big chances, and he's only played 8 games. He's made 1 assist, and he makes 0.9 key passes per game, and he averages 1.3 tackles per game. So he's ticking off all boxes you need in a midfielder. And honestly, if he can be like his dad, I believe that. He's that good.
That's crazy. I can't believe. Redondo. Geez.
When I mentioned him, did he not put 2 in?
No. Not that he's obviously dad was an ex-player. But it makes perfect sense. Absolutely, I love him. Perfect sense.
Honestly, love him.
Keep an eye on him, Federico Redondo. That's for sure. Now, the attacking areas. we are going to look at, and I think it's predominantly right wingers, if I'm right in thinking, with some of these. But look, we'll go with one player that maybe players that people don't know about, and then we're going to get a player that I think a number of people, certainly in the loaded chat, may well know about in terms of a young, hungry attacking right midfielder, someone that we know a little bit about. But I'm going to throw up this player here. Which one?
I know.
I've got two young players here, and then we've got an established player. So let's throw in. Let's go Luciano Rodriguez.
I was hoping you threw in this guy.
Talk to us about him. Who is he?
He is a Argentine versatile attacking midfielder. He can play left, right, and he's also very, very, very accomplished playing as a striker. Very accomplished. Now, what I love about this boy is he's excellent on the ball, and I mean excellent. The way he just glides past 3 or 4 players with ease. Like, it looks like he's dribbling around corners. Like, honestly, he takes your breath away the way he just finds space so easily. His vision is exemplary. His off-ball movements are terrific. He's got excellent footwork, and he's unpredictable. And what I like about him the most is the amount of goals he scores from outside the box. If you want somebody to deliver you the spectacular, that's your boy. He's very good inside the box with his instinctive finishing. He's good in one-on-ones. He's composed. He's confident. But he can finish left foot, right foot. He tends to take his chances early with not a lot of backlift, but he gets a lot of power and accuracy in his shots. And he's very, very precise in what he wants to deliver. So he can hit bottom corner, top corner with ease. Honestly, he's terrific. I love him. He blew me mind at the under-20s carnival between the South African nations, where he scored 5 goals, 2 assists, and 6 starts. Took them all the way to the final, only to miss out on probably the best team in Brazil. He's winning 6.3 ground duels. Most of them come from successful take-ons. His successful dribbles per 90 are 2.9, and he's averaging 1 key pass per 90 as well. 18 years old. He is an absolute manager's dream. He receives the ball with an open body shape, which allows him to play off his second touch. Takes his first touch out his feet at all times. He's good. When you watch him, you don't know what foot he's playing. You know he's right-footed. He's a bit like Rayan Cherki in terms of not his skill level, but in terms of two-footedness. You don't know what foot. When you watch him, and I haven't told you he's right-footed, you wouldn't think he's right-footed. He excels on the ball. He's terrific.
Well, you've just mentioned some great things about Luciano Rodriguez. I mean, he looks a promising player. But you've also touched on the next guy, the main guy that we're going to talk about in this position, and it's him.
Rayan
Cherki. Now, Chris, I know you've talked about him before. He's been linked with us. He's been linked with a move away from Lyon. Mm-hmm. Look, he looks, and I believe that Lee talked about him on one of the Funload transfer shows last summer as a player to look out for. Rayan Cherki. Antonio, talk to us about him. You referred to him, actually, when I was speaking to you earlier. You referred to him as a player that is ready to hit the ground running in the first team. Is that the case for Newcastle United?
100%. I think he is better than what we've got right now. Much better. In terms of attack and output, I mean, he just, boy, does he excite you. If you want a player that'll get you off your seat and create moments of magic, Ryan Cherki's your man. I watched him back in, I think it was he was playing for Leon's under-19s team. And he looked like he was playing against boys. He was just toying with players. Like he was just, you can tell he was just having fun. Like it looked effortless. The way he just, a little step over, a little shimmy, drop of the shoulder, little feint, and off he went. And then he would stop, let him catch up and do it again. And then he would do it again. And then he would do it. Like he would just do it over and over again, just toying with them. Now, his vision and his creativity on the ball is elite. Like, and I mean, like, doing what he does at his age, like, left foot, right foot, he can go left, he can go right, he can drag back, he step overs, but you name a piece of skill, he can deliver it on a sixpence. He finds space well. He likes to, for Leon played differently to Newcastle. They play with a 4-2-3-1. He plays centre of a 3, although he has played out wide, left and right. So he can do a mixture of it all. But the fundamentals stay the same, as I say. Now, if you look at these stats, they just blow off the page. So if you look at these progressive carries, 6.39, and that's in the 98th percentile. His carries in the final third, 4.38, 98th percentile. And this is percentile across all of Europe, by the way. So he's in the top 3 across all of Europe for both of them. Carries in the penalty area, 2.93, 97th percentile. Progressive carries, 12.5 per 90. This is 95th percentile. Successful take-ons, 4.38, 99th percentile. And that's the highest it goes. You can't get to 100. And goal creation actions, 0.77, 93 percentile. Shot creating actions, 6.15, 98 percentile. Key passes, 3.17, 97 percentile. Expected goals and assists, 0.35, 95 percentile. Goals, 4, 6 assists. And what's that? Big chances created, 40, I couldn't read my own writing. 14 big chances created.
Jeez.
In their legal. Now, if you consider his age, he's 19.
Yeah.
There's no lower than the 95 percentile across all those metrics. If you don't sign this boy, somebody else will.
Do you know what, Antonio? It's really interesting you saying this, because me and Pete were chatting last night. Yeah, Pete knows what's going on. Me and Pete were chatting last night. Now, we absolutely stumbled across this. This was just a pure accident, because we were talking about positions. And what I want to ask you in a minute, after I bring this image up, I'm going to get Pete to bring it up. After Pete brings this image up, want to ask, you mentioned that he plays in a 4-2-3-1 at Lyon. And he tends to play in I'm assuming he plays in the number 10 behind the striker. I wanted to ask, do you think there's a possibility of him being able to play in the number 8 in a midfield 3 for Eddie Howe with a 4-3-3? Now, the reason I asked that question is because, Pete, bring it up. Tell Antonio what we stumbled across yesterday.
We look at the comparisons. Is that what you're after?
Yeah.
There we go.
Look at that.
James Maddison,
James Maddison,
and Rayan Cherki.
Wow,
They are
that's
the comparisons that we
fascinating.
looked at.
Look how similar it is.
Yeah, that is absolutely fascinating. Wow. That just underlines everything I've said.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
At 19 years old, and we've
At
seen
19 years old.
we've seen the way
forget,
that James Maddison's performing, and
he's out of contract in 2024.
Wow.
Ryan Cherki.
Yeah.
Will he not sign a new deal?
He doesn't want to.
Ooh.
Because if you think Lyon are not getting into Europe, they haven't for the past 3 seasons.
You said
missed out the season as well.
Yeah.
Out the season,
Mm.
And
right.
he's already expressed that he wants to play in Europe. Now, Real Madrid, there was actually a mistake because his contract was supposed to end this season, but nobody knew Lyon had an option for an extension. So Real Madrid actually come in for the player and talk to Cherki's agents, and then Lyon extended they activated that extra clause. So he didn't really have an option. So Real Madrid are going to be sniffing about this boy, and I know they will.
Do you think there's any possibility, Antonio, that especially given that he plays in Ligue 1, do you think there's a possibility that PSG will be looking at him? And the reason I ask that is because Mbappe looks like he could be going. Messi's already gone. There's talks about them wanting rid of Neymar. From what you're saying, he would be the perfect replacement for one of them.
Yeah, I was speaking to somebody I've just. He works as a football agent. He goes on TVs and things, and I've just sort of built a relationship with him recently. And we're talking about Cherki not that long ago, and he said that PSG really, really want him. Really want him.
Oh.
But not only that, Mbappe wants him.
Oh.
And when you speak about Mbappe saying they're not signing the players that are taking us to that level, Cherki's one of those that he wants at that club.
Isn't Mbappe the sporting director?
He is, yeah.
He decides who goes to the club,
It's
doesn't
mental,
he?
isn't it? It's just mental.
But one thing I want to say is, when I'm scouting players, I don't look at stats. I tend to judge it by my own eyes and my own interpretation on their style. I'm only delivering stats is because I'm on a YouTube show, so I'm trying to underline what I'm saying. Do you know what I mean? So although you can go on on the stats website how do you pronounce it? Febref, or I don't know how you pronounce it. But although
we use SuperScore, Antonio.
Yeah, SuperScore, things like that. Yeah, so although you can go on them, there's only so much you can take from stats. So
of course.
I advise all players to try and just broaden their horizon and watch a bit more football outside the Premier League, because if you think about it, over the past 20 years, we've signed these players from other leagues.
Yeah.
So why not learn about them before they come in?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's what got me started on these leagues. And then because I'm half Italian, I grew up watching Italian football. So I had that mindset of European football was magnificent. So yeah, I'm delivering stats for a reason, but I don't put my scouting work down to stats, if that makes sense.
Do you know what, Antonio? We Pete and I have spoke about this loads of times, as has Daz, Richie, Martin too. When we look, at stats, as much as we know that stats can kind of paint a picture, you can't always rely on them. And I think I'm not going to get into it, Pete. I'm going to say this with this name. I'm not going to get into it, but somebody like an Alan St. Maximin, can often defy the stats because, you know, most people would look around St. Maximin this season and previous seasons and go, oh, his return's not great and he doesn't do much and he should be doing better and blah, blah, blah. And it's just, I've nearly finished, Pete. It's just that, you know, sometimes players can hide or the stats don't do the player justice.
Yeah, you bang on.
So we are aware. We're on exactly the same page as you, and I know you've brought the stats to kind of back up the reasons why you've, you know, kind of you're all for these certain players. But yeah, no, we're cut from the same cloth, mate. We believe stats can be handy in terms of adding to a conversation, but that you shouldn't, you know, live and die by the stats.
Yeah, and just finally on attacking players off the top of my head. There's a few players you might want to look out for, maybe take note of. Oscar Cortez, Colombian, plays in the Colombian League. Desire Dure plays for Stade de Reims.
Yes, we've got him.
Ernest Nmecha. Sorry, I pronounced that Nmecha. Ernest Nmecha, right, plays for Northland. Won the Young Player of the Year and the Player of the Year in the Northland League, in the Danish League. So watch out for him because he's going to be the next breakout star. He's Ghanaian. He's brilliant. Ernest Poku, who was not yet had a senior appearance.
Ooh.
He's Ghanaian. He plays for AZ Alkmaar. He'll thrive next season. Thrive. Probably all know this one because we've been linked to him. Angelo plays for Santos. Angelo Gabriel.
Yeah.
Savio, PSV. He's a one to watch. He's brilliant. And another player who's come to mind, I'm probably forgetting most of them, by the way, but another player that's just come to mind is you probably know of or heard of him, Yasser Aspria for Watford.
Yeah.
He's going to turn into a brilliant footballer.
How do we know? We know Aspria because of the surname.
Yeah, because of the surname.
It's the classic. But we definitely have heard of him. But yeah, he has been kind of earmarked as a real talent for the future. That's for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
They're just a few. Look, these players are not players we've been linked with. They're just different people we could potentially look at, and you never know because these are players that are really excellent. So they're not going to be linked in Newcastle. They're going to be linked elsewhere.
Jason Scott with the great line as always. Colombian.
Yes.
Great line.
Great line.
Great line. Love it. Absolutely love it. And of course, Craig Lee, Angel, Gabriel. Foxy mentioned Oscar earlier. Foxy knows his South American football. So great to have him in the chat as always. And there's definitely lots to keep an eye on. Look, we got through an array of quality talent, and look, we could have gone on for another 2-3 hours. I'm sure we'll get you back in as the summer unfolds for
more than happy
players.
to. Honestly, it's an honor to come on. It's an honor to have an audience listening, and I appreciate you all sticking out for the full 2 hours because it's a lot to take in, and it can get quite repetitive. I understand that, but I appreciate you all, so thank you very much.
Very, very, very interesting, Antonio. Pete, just before we wrap up, and I don't know whether you were just about to go to this, and Antonio as well, do we have time for a few quick fire questions? Do we have time?
Of course,
for a few?
Yeah.
Of course. Quality.
Cool. Right, so
imagine if I said no, drop me mic and just walked out.
See ya.
Yep, see ya. Job's done.
Callum says, Antonio, and apologies if we discussed this one earlier. I don't think we went into detail, but he says, Guglielmo Vicario at Empoli is very good and should get a move this summer.
Yeah. He's got ball knowledge, by the way. Callum, you've got ball knowledge. Yes, he's a very, very good player. And his bring up is quite similar to Parisi.
Okay.
Not obviously not his position, things like that, but his bring up in terms of like he's one of those players that can hit unbelievable heights, but yet the top teams will stay away from in Italy. And I've got no idea why, because top teams in Italy like faces that fit.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
see players like that play for Empoli and things like that they've reached their level already when they haven't.
Yeah.
So that's a great shout. Well done.
Yeah. Well, Callum's got another one for you as well. Callum says, speaking of Serie A, I personally like Matheus Oliveira at Napoli.
Well, I'm a Napoli fan. So, I'm a Newcastle and Napoli fan because I was born in England in Newcastle to an English mother, but my dad's from Naples, so they're like my Italian team.
Ah.
Matheus Oliveira is outstanding. And when you think of Adrian Truffer, he's a similar brand and mold.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? He's that type of player. So instead of going through everything he likes to do, just think back of what I said about him. Is Oliveira as well. He's been a brilliant buy for Napoli, and once again going under the radar. And these are those little gems you can pick up for next to nothing, and they can just take you on that extra level.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Foxy Pete, I think this is the one you mentioned before. Oscar Cortez. I think you brought up Oscar Cortez before. That's what we were talking about, wasn't it? This is a really interesting one from Lisa. So Lisa goes, can I ask Antonio, was he aware of Bruno before we signed him, and did you rate him?
100%. When he was linked to Arsenal and they rejected 25 million, I think I tweeted it out at the time. It was their biggest mistake at that moment. They're 100%, because Bruno, Leon had Uwa, who was absolutely thriving. They had Max Crozet, who's now thriving. But Bruno was keeping them out of the team. And Leon did not want to sell Bruno. They did not want to sell him. They seen him as their pride and joy. And but he wanted to move. He believed he had given Leon, and their fans believed it as well. He had given Leon as much as he could give without them investing in other areas. He single-handedly couldn't take them on that next level. Like nobody would. Do you know what I mean? And honestly, I think if you look back in my tweets again, he is somebody I've been talking about for a long time.
Yeah.
So I was over the moon when we signed him.
Yeah, we're reaping the rewards now.
Yeah, definitely.
Pete, David Cook says, and it's a valid point, David Cook says you were getting a little bit carried away with Daz's super chat buzz of earlier.
Oh, bad.
Now, funny you should say that, because Jason Scott.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Super chat received.
Thank you very much, Jason. Really appreciate it, mate. Thank you so much.
Put a question in there.
I know.
Put a question in there for us. You're going to put a super chat in, which is amazing. Thank you. Put a question or a comment in there so we can read it out. Thank you, Jason.
Next time,
always a supporter of the channel.
Next time, Tom, deliver a question. We'll read it out. We'll make sure we do.
100%.
Absolutely. Craig Lee says beef Cherki. Quite like that.
I like that. Yes, Craig.
We like that.
That. I'm stealing that, by the way.
Where are we? Yes, this was what I wanted to ask as well. This was from Jason Scott. So you took the words out of my mouth, Jason. Did Antonio know about Minteh, and does he rate him? He looks rapid. Now I've seen a couple of videos of Minteh, and now he's been announced. Were you surprised we gone for Minteh, or did you kind of see that he'll link up well with Newcastle? And also, what I wanted to ask Antonio is like a little added question: Is he much further down the line than someone like Garang Kual? Or do you think that he is, probably on par in terms of where he is in his career, and that this move to Feyenoord, kind of works out well for him?
Sorry, you broke up when you went to say the name, you went down the line and then you froze.
Oh,
so I
sorry.
don't know who you said.
Sorry. So I was talking about Garang Kual. So.
Wow.
Yeah, so Qual's been on loan, hasn't he, at Hearts? And I just kind of wanted to know your comparison in terms of Minteh and Qual. Like, do you think they're both kind of like that, or do you think that Minteh's probably got a higher ceiling, or how would you compare the two? Because they look, from when I've seen highlights, they look quite similar to me.
You're very, very similar. Very, very similar. You've put us on the spot here in terms of ceiling because, yes, I was aware of Minteh. Because I don't know why, there's something about the Gambian national team that I love. And there's a boy in there that is going to burst on the scene very, very soon. But Minteh is one of them that I hadn't seen a lot of them because it's tough to watch the Gambian national team because you don't get very much matches that are shown and recorded and get produced live, so it's very, very tough to watch. So it was few and far between, but I have watched him in Europe more, and he's raw, he's athletic, he's so athletic, it's unbelievable. He's a phenomenal dribbler with terrific ball retentions, excellent footwork, and you don't need me to tell you, electric pace. Like, he is a speedster. He's like the little road runner. Once those back burners get going, he jets off like a little dart. He's explosive, he's acceleration, he's direct. And what I like about Minteh more than I'm forgetting his name. Qual, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
More than Qual is his off-ball movements. They seem a little bit more intelligent. He seems to break through the lines a little bit better. Whereas Qual likes to get the ball to feet a little bit more. Yeah. I mean, in 15 starts, Minteh has provided, this is his first season, by the way, 4 goals, 4 assists, 5 big chances created, 2.8 successful dribbles per 90.
Wow.
You can't really argue with that in only 15 starts. Shows his character, shows his confidence levels, and it shows his ability above most. He's honestly one of the best pickups for a cheap price we could have made out there. And he's ready, not ready yet, but he will explode into the Premier League.
Exciting, mate.
That's the best compliment I can give him.
No, very, very exciting. I've got one more question for you, and then a few more things just to add, just in terms of comments and stuff.
Yeah.
And I want you, the big thing I want you to do is pronounce this name. There's a little bit of debate over this.
Maxence Lacroix.
Lacroix.
That's the way I would pronounce it.
Yeah.
Now, I was so close to putting him instead of Tapsoba. Not Tapsoba. I've got too many centre backs on my mind.
Is it instead of the RB Leipzig lad?
Yeah,
no, Todibo, because the reason why
we didn't even talk about Todibo. Todibo was the other centre back, but we went on to Nmecha. So that's why Nmecha, we ended up talking about him, so we didn't even talk about Todibo as the other centre back option tonight. We didn't even get to him, but we know about him. We've talked about him before, so that's all good. But sorry, carry on. Talk about Max and Leclerc.
This is what I was saying. It's so hard to break it down into two because there's so many you can dive into and delve upon and discuss. And he is, again, if you look back at me tweets, he is one of the most consistent defenders in the Bundesliga. Every time he plays for Wolfsburg, they seem to just be more structured, better, all round. His physicality is extraordinary. He's very similar in terms of aggressiveness. He's very similar to Simakan. And I'm not talking on the ball, I'm talking off the ball, where he's aggressive in his tackles, he's physically strong, but he reads the game very, very well. He's honestly, I don't understand the likes of how Borussia Dortmund or Bayern Munich haven't signed this player yet. I understand why Leipzig haven't, because they're stacked in that department. But if you look at Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich, they've got their like they're not very good defensively over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
And this kid would sort them out brilliantly.
I've got a very quick question. Sorry, I'm just adding on here. It's just something that's popped in my head, and I want to ask this to Pete and to you, Antonio. Sorry, my mind went blank then. What I've noticed, just through us talking there, and the question I've got for you is: do you think there's a possibility of a double signing for Newcastle? And when I say a double signing, we've seen in recent weeks Todibo and Chavan have both been linked from Nice. Then we've got Leclerc and we've got Nmecha, who are both from Wolfsburg. And then we've got Simakan and we've got Szoboszlai. Do you think there's a possibility that we could do a double signing from the same club, or do you not think that's something that's possible?
Yeah, who do you want to ask first?
I'll start with you, Pete. It's weird that we've had two linked, a centre back and a midfielder from the same club.
I'll be honest with you. If we're going to do a double signing, it's likely to be from Leicester. I think if we're going to do a double signing, we'd get Harvey Barnes and James Maddison in the same deal. Wow. That's that in my opinion. That I don't think we'll get Todibo and Kefren Turam in the same deal. I genuinely don't believe that'll happen. I think we'll get one or the other. If we were to get one at all, we'd get one out of the two. But I think if we're going to get a double deal, it will be Leicester, Harvey Barnes and James Maddison. That's my opinion on it. Interesting, Andy's just put there Leclerc. He is compared to Leclerc to Saliba, and we know how highly rated Saliba is at Arsenal and the season he had. So that's big praise there from Andy. Fair play to you. But Antonio, what do you think? Double signing?
Can we do one? Yes. The reason being is because we're looking to be savvy in the market. And in terms of savvy, you need to think outside the box. So if we could lower somebody's wages by including another player, maybe at their just over their value, then it works. So what I mean by that is, let's say Leipzig are asking 60 million for Simakan, right? For argument's sake. And for argument's sake, they're asking for argument's sake, let's say Szoboszlai's priced at 60 million, right? We'll give you the 60 million for Simakan. If you include Dominic Sosbiali for maybe 55 million, 50 million, we'll give you both.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way they would look to do it. Now, because the links of Madison are so strong, I don't think we'll sign Sosbiali. So I can't see a double signing from Leipzig.
Leipzig, yeah.
I could potentially see a double signing from Wolfsburg. Now, there's another name I want to throw in the hat. Now, he's never been linked with any of us. We don't necessarily need a left-footed centre-back. But Micky van der Ven, watch out for
Van der
him.
Ven.
Yeah. Left-footed centre-back for Leipzig, for Wolfsburg. Now, all I'm going to say, read up on this boy and you'll be amazed. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, on that note, Lisa Mold does say, Antonio, never gonna remember those names. Can you please post or share them after the show so we can do some research? Because you have thrown us an absolutely plethora of players, and we want to, all look back and be able to do a little bit of research on them.
Of course. Here's what I'll do, right? I'll create a thread for tomorrow, and I'll do a page on each position. So I'll do a left back thread where I just identify 10 players for players to look at. I'll do a right centre back, a right winger, come left winger, should we say, and a number 8, box to box. Maybe a midfielder that can play multiple positions. And I'll because it'll take us a little bit of time tomorrow. So if you give us till about midday tomorrow, maybe a bit after, once I get a few bits and bobs of work done and things like that. And do you know what I mean? And I'll deliver it, close of play by tomorrow. How's that sound?
Sounds fantastic,
Spot on, mate. Spot on. And Lisa's come back. Sorry to take the chat away. Antonio, you're a star. Thank you. We'll end it with Williams asked, what is your Twitter? Tell us where we can find you guys, Antonio, on Twitter. Yeah,
so my Twitter handle is quite simple. It's just my name. So Antonio Mango 4. So make sure you follow us, and don't forget, make sure you follow the Loaded Mags, because this channel is brilliant. They bring some terrific insight. They have great guests that are even better than me on here. So yeah, there's my Twitter handle. Thank you very much. So
top man, Chris.
By all means, follow us. If you want to follow back, give us a shout, because I tend to get a lot of notifications. I'm not going to lie, so I do tend to miss it. So if you want to follow back, give us a shout, and by all means, I will do.
Brilliant stuff. William very, very quickly has said follow, and he's done it already.
Thank you very much, William.
Brilliant stuff. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you, Antonio. Absolute spot on.
Thank you very much.
We knew it was going to be a brilliant show. And look, this is what we do at Loaded Mag AFC. We bring you something a little bit different. We've got all the players that have been linked with Newcastle out there, but what we like to do is bring different players to the table, and you've certainly done that tonight. The players that none of us were aware of. Some of us were aware of one or two players that you talked about, but this is the great thing about it, is that there are players out there that we may well go and sign that we might have no idea about, and you might have brought those to the table. And look, everyone's coming in with massive praise for you. Antonio, it'd be a pleasure to have you back later on in the summer to talk about one or two new names and develop on some of the names that you've talked about tonight. So it'd be an absolute pleasure. And look, I'm sure we'll talk as the summer months go on. That's for sure.
Honestly,
Just
it's been an honour. Thank you.
absolutely spot on. And look, next time you'll be getting your hat trick ball because you've been on twice already.
I know.
Your third appearance. So don't forget about that. But look, just before we wrap up, massive thanks to our sponsors, of course, H2O Bathroom Design. Make sure we get our support in to these guys. And look, we've got some fantastic examples and dashed through them up yesterday. The designs get better and better, and I have to keep them away from my wife because otherwise we're paying out a lot of money for new rooms that I don't quite have the money for at this point in time. As well as that, the Radiator Shed, Russ and the team do a fantastic job, and they're superb sponsors of the channel. So make sure you get down to the radiatorshed.com and support all things Radiator Shed. Yes, they are not real radiators; they are samples. I've been hammered on that already. But look, there's some fantastic different colors, variations of radiators that are there. So make sure you get involved in that as well. And we do have superb sponsors. And of course, you see on the right-hand side of the screen right now, the Northeast Partnership. They are a superb support for us. The Install Works, an additional sponsor to us as well. So make sure you get involved in that too. Anything else before we wrap up?
Can I mention one last thing?
Oh, go for
I
it.
don't normally mention this, but I'm doing it because it's the end of the season. Now, I've teamed up with Cult Kits and Classic Football Shirts for anybody if they want to get 10% off their order. And you can use it multiple times. So it's just a little bit of discount if anybody does use them. I mean, if you look at, I'm going to show you a shirt that I've got on, right? And I'm doing this because it's a Newcastle show. So this Alan Shearer shirt
Big Al
was sent by his from Cult Kits. And this type of stuff, not only do they have actual kits, but they make stuff beyond that as well, for specific clubs. So if you want to use any of those websites, just use the discount code MANGO10 and you'll be able to get 10% off your order anytime, multiple times. Use it as much as you want.
Tell them to get involved. Tell them to get in touch with Loaded Mag NUFC, and we'll quite happily support them like you are as well, Antonio. So feel free to do that, and I'm more than happy to work in partnership. And Chris Hall is the man for the plan to do that. So I'm sure Chris Hall will be in touch. That is for sure, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Way longer than we anticipated, but I tell you what, it is worth it because we've got a lot of players on there to be able to discuss and do our YouTube searches. And I think a lot of people are about to be going onto YouTube right about now. But just before you go, we've had 260 plus over the course of the show tonight. Wow. Make sure you like and subscribe on the way out. We are on the way to 6K. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it means the world to us and it helps us build and grow. Thank you for the super chats tonight. We'll be back with more later on this week, whether it's Thursday or beyond. There is content coming out of our ears with Loaded Mag NUFC. And of course, if there is any breaking news, we'll be back just like we were last night with a quick fire show off the cuff. To talk about all things at Newcastle United. Guys, always a pleasure. Never, ever a chore. Thank you to everyone in the chat for your questions. Thank you for all your support as always. And last thing to be said, how'd you like that? Take care, guys.